We're now moving on to what I call the blog style layout. I'm over here in Dreamweaver, and a couple things we need to start this layout. You need the blog folder. It's a zip file. You need to download it, unzip it. And then we're going to open up Dreamweaver and define that folder, blog, as our root folder. If you don't want to watch the video, you can also go through this on your own following the PDF. I do have the PDF open just to try to help me remember all the different steps and colors that we would need. So I'm over here in Dreamweaver, and I have my last site of cookies open, but I want to create a new site that I'm going to call blog. I'm going to go to site, new site, and I'm going to browse for my folder that I've unzipped that is called blog. And I'm going to select this folder, and I can give it a site name of something I can remember for later on. The site name is not anything that's going to show up anywhere other than your computer. And click Save. And now my Files panel changes to just show me the folder that was inside of blog, which is images. I'm going to create a new file, and I'll call this also blog. And just make sure it says .html, and let's open it up. So the point of this practice is we're going to do pretty much what I did in the last video, except for this time we're going to use all of the Dreamweaver interface. So we're going to insert first all of our divs, then we're going to insert our text and our images. And as we're inserting the divs, we're also going to give them IDs and set up their styles, their CSS styles. So it's a little bit, in terms of the order, backwards from what we did before, but the end result is going to be the same. And you're going to get to learn the Dreamweaver interface. So we're going to start off with going up to the main menu where it says Insert, Div, and it should say Add Insertion Point. If it doesn't, click Cancel, and then make sure to click inside your design view and then go back. And where it says ID, I'm going to call this one Container. So I'm going to have one big div with an ID of container that wraps around all of my other divs and all my content. While I'm here, I can also create that CSS rule, so let's do that. Click New CSS Rule. This panel, basically you just confirm, click OK. And now I get a panel that actually, it's kind of like my page properties, but it has more categories. So I'm going to kind of just speed through here. And what I want to do is put a background color, and I think I'm going to choose, I choose white on my PDF. I don't really remember, but just you can follow, either put in your own colors or follow whatever I have there. I'm going to go to the box category, and I'm going to put in a width. And I'm going to center my container. So I'm going to go to margins and uncheck same for all, and put my margins of left and right to auto. Remember, we did this in the last video, but we did it directly in the code view. So now I'm going to click OK, and click OK, and there it is. It actually almost looks like it has a pink background. Ooh, I don't like that. I will change it, but I'm just going to move ahead right now. So the next thing I'd like to do is insert my header. So I'm going to go to Insert, Div, and choose Header. I want to insert this header after the start of my tag container. So if you followed the last video, this should make sense. I want my container, and then right after that, I want to have my header, and then I'm going to have all my other divs, and then at the very end, I want my closing div for container. So to get this header inside of my container, it's going to go after the start of the tag container. I'm going to give it the ID of header, and choose New CSS Rule. Click OK on this page, and I'm going to give it, I'm going to choose some fonts for my header. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying these are the fonts for everything that's going to be inside my header, and all of my other divs can have different fonts. And I want this font color to be white, and then I'm going to go to my background color, and I'm going to choose something so I'm going to jump over to my PDF and see what color I had here. These are all the steps that we've already done. And for my background color, I chose this color. And I can actually paste that in. And I don't need to set anything in the box category unless I want it to be different. If I don't set a width in, it's automatically going to take the same width as my container. I don't need to center it because it's inside my container and my container is already centered. So let's click OK and click OK, and I can now see it here. So the reason Dreamweaver adds this little filler text of content for ID header goes here, content for ID container goes here, is because if that text isn't there, watch what's going to happen here. I'm going to delete it. My container shrinks up. So the container, since I haven't set a height, is only the height of whatever is in it. So if there's nothing in it, you won't even see it. So let's move on here. I'm going to go to Insert Div, and I want to insert this one after the tag of header. I'm inserting my main, and I'm going to put it after my tag of header. And when it says after tag, that means after the closing tag of header. I'm going to give it an ID of main. Click New CSS Rule. Click OK on this page. And my main actually isn't going to have any text right now, so I don't need to do anything here. I'm just going to give it a different background color. I'm going to give it kind of a grayish color. And I'm also going to go into the box category, and kind of like the example we did before, I'm going to make this one smaller. I'm going to make it 480 pixels. And I want this to be centered inside of my container. So I'm going to go to the left and right and put that to auto. And let's click OK. And here we can see, and it is centered. If I just switch all to the design view, you can see that the whole thing is here, and it is centered inside my container. Let's go back over to the split view. And to make things a little bit easier, let's add a background color. So I'm going to write a rule right here for my body tag, and just put in a background color. So it'll be a little bit easier to see all of our different divs. And I click over into here. So now you can see them. And I want to make sure that my container looks kind of pinkish. I'm just going to type in white here. Make sure that is white. There we go. And now I'm really getting white. Okay, so we have one more to insert, and that's the footer. I'm going to insert div, and I want to insert this after the tag of main. And I'm going to put in footer. So I'm doing three things at once here. I insert my div, I put it in the right spot, I give it an ID, and now I'm going to go and give it some rules. And I want this one, I want the type to be a different font family, just so we could see that as an example. Now my different regions can have different fonts, and I'm going to choose 11 pixels, and I'm going to make it white. And I'm going to go to my background category, and for the background color, I'm going to take my eyedropper so I get the same color I had here. And that's all I'm going to do for this one. I'm going to click OK and click OK. So now I have some divs set up, and let's talk about adding the content here. So I'm going to highlight where it says content for ID header here, and I'm going to put in the title of this web page, which is going to be piecing it all together. It's the name of this project. And I'm going to come down a line, and you can put in a whole bunch of just filler text here. I have some text already on a Word document that I'm just going to copy, and let's go back over here, and I'm going to paste it in. So what I want is to make this into a heading 1. So since we're using Dreamweaver interface right now, instead of doing it in the code, I'm going to highlight it and go down to my properties inspector where it says format, and I'm going to format this as a heading 1. And we now see over here that this became a heading 1. And one thing that I was mentioning a lot in the other video is that it really doesn't look very good when all of your text goes right up against the edge of your region. So there are two ways I could handle this. One, I could write a rule that targets my paragraph, and I could add padding to all my paragraphs. I could write a rule for my H1 tag that adds padding to my H1, and that would move it over. Or I could just simply add padding to my heading, and that way nothing, whether it's a heading 1, an image, or a paragraph, would ever go up against the edge. And that's the way I'm going to do it. So I'll do this directly in the code view. I'll go back over here, and let's just add padding. And if I just choose padding here and I don't use any specific ones, it's going to add padding to all sides, and that's fine. And I'll put in a padding of 20px. And let's click over here, and now you can see how that moves everything over. So that's a better starting point. Just to back up a little bit on the PDF, The unit that I had talked about using inside of my heading here was a 1M. Okay, so I'm going to go back up here and I'm going to add a font size, and I'm going to put in 1 EM for M. And what an M unit is, and I'll talk about this more later, is it basically says this is going to be whatever is the default size, the standard size that that viewer's computer is set up for. So we'll talk about that more later. Okay, so I'm going to just jump back over to my PDF and make sure I kind of stay to that. So we've inserted all of our divs, and now we're going to insert content now into the main. So now I've inserted the footer, inserting content into your header. We've inserted the text, and now we're going to start adding images into our main. So if I go over here into my files panel and I open up my images file, I have 9 images. And I'm not going to delete this text yet, because if I do, then you're not going to be able to actually access this div. So I'm going to drag over my first image, and as soon as I get that there, I'm going to delete the text that's here. And I'm just going to drag them all over one by one. And what you'll see is once they can't fit, they're going to go down onto the line below. And that's exactly what I want. So I have 9 images set up here. And they are a little bit tight. It doesn't really look great. So we're going to work on how to adjust their spacing. And let's just jump back over to the PDF. And the next thing we're going to do is just add a little bit of text onto our footer. So I can do this directly in the code view if I want, or I can do it in the design view. And I'm just going to put in, this is a project created by, and just replace it with your own name here. And the same thing, it really doesn't look very good when your text goes all the way to the edge. Also, notice, by the way, how small this text is. And that's because I set a rule for the footer that said any text that's in here is going to be 11 px, which is pretty small. So I can start to get more specific. I can make the text that's in one region a different color or a different size than the text that's in another region. So I'm going to go back and add that padding. And go up to my footer. And I'll add this to the bottom. Let's add padding of, well, it's good. I don't want to use the 20 pixels like I did here because it's a kind of smaller region. I'll use 15 px. And let's click back over. And so now you can see the difference. And if you wanted, you could just put different values all around. So the bottom could have less, so the top could have less, the left and the right, they could have less, so on and so forth.